Good morning, good afternoon. Whenever you are watching this, my name is Samantha and welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. Guys, have you ever really thought about what is underneath your home? What is underneath your town or even the streets that you're driving on? So today we're going to talk about what is beneath America. Could there be thousands of miles of high-speed train? Magnetic trains, yes, is the answer to that question. Yes, there could be. Not to mention undisclosed military bases inside of mountains. And we have seen throughout history that there were indigenous tribes in this country that took refuge underground for different natural disasters and, even giants, right? All of that is true. So, hi guys, welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. You watchers on the wall, friends and family of the internet, please hit the like button, subscribe, drop down in the comments, tell me who you are and where you're watching from. Let's start with something that's a little bit close to me and kind of in my backyard. So, some of you may have heard of the sinkhole, right? It has now basically become famous. It made an entire town have to be moved, and it's kind of a little on the crazy side. So let's pull this up real fast. This is a bayou in Louisiana, and it's called Bayou Corne sinkhole. Now, this thing has been around since 2012. It seems to never want to fully go away. Let me show you a little video of what this big bad boy can do. You ready? Get ready to have your mind blown.
This 24-acre pond is in fact a giant sinkhole, the remains of a collapsed cavern in Assumption Parish, Louisiana. And although it looks placid, it's still hungry. The sinkhole near the village of Bayou Corne and Grand Bayou formed almost overnight in August 2012 after a so-called salt dome cavern, a giant underground mine, collapsed. The structure, owned by a company called Texas Brine, was closed in 2011 after years of being mined and expanded. Workers have since been trying to stabilise the cave-in, which has ruptured underground gas and oil supplies and sent roiling, bubbling burps of it up to the surface, causing the two nearby communities to be largely evacuated due to fears the toxic mix could explode. Around 350 people have been ordered to leave their homes. Not only that, but there's now reportedly a risk of highly salted water from the cavern infecting the freshwater swamps nearby, which would likely be a catastrophe for local wildlife. Louisiana State is suing Texas Brine over the sinkhole, whilst they in turn are suing the landowners, a company called Occidental, and 3 other companies who were involved in the operation. In the meantime, the sinkhole continues to grow. It's thought it could be years before the ground settles.
That's horrific. That's horrific. So, yeah, they did sue. They did sue, but let's all be very honest. Even in 2018, the Bayou Corne sinkhole had severely impacted the community. The population was at 350. 6 years later, it was down to 30. Many residents were forced to move due to property damage and the loss of employment because the businesses were closing. All of which was because the bayou was still disappearing. And folks, the thing about a Louisiana bayou that is so amazing is that we have cypress trees that take hundreds of years to fully grow, that can survive inside of swamps. And they are basically endangered now, and you better not ever get caught cutting a cypress knee, which is the root system that is above water for the tree. But cypress is used because it basically doesn't rot. It's one of the best woods in the world. And all of this, right? There's airborne gas, expanding sinkhole that has swallowed everything in its sight. It was 2.5 acres when it started. By 2018, it was 34 acres and 700 feet deeper than it originally was. This is very concerning to me,
For its
right?
moss-draped cypress, tucked away cabins, and water reflections that could slay the Greek hunter Narcissus, Bayou Corne is where you can go quite some time without hearing a single word.
You look at the bayou, the water's still nice, the trees are still green, the gators are still lurking, the egrets are still catching fish.
A slice of Assumption Parish still quiet after all these years, only now for the wrong reasons.
The saddest thing for me is the loss of the people that were living here. You know, we lost all those neighbors, they were all good friends.
12-year resident Dennis Landry says they were all here before bubbles and burps belted this bayou until the outer wall of the nearby underground salt cavern caved in. The crude oil and methane gas filtered up as the ancient rock and trees began their descent, some 750 feet. Before that sinkhole ate up nearly 37 acres of this community, Bayou Corne boasted a population of just about 350. Today it stands at about a dozen.
You know, we have the stigma of the sinkhole hanging over us.
That day, August 3rd of 2012, Governor Bobby Jindal ordered the residents of Bayou Corne to evacuate as officials burned the midnight oil, trying to solve the most terrifying parts of this puzzle.
The unknown of what is occurring. Will it travel this far out to the residential area? Will the highway get affected?
Many of those answers didn't come for another 4 years once the sinkhole finally slowed in its movement. That ultimately led the state to lift its evacuation order in 2016. But many never came back, fearing more collapses to come. Texas Brine, the company operating the failed cavern, agreed to buy out their property, the value of which had fallen with the land itself.
I've actually checked with several of the local banks to see if they would loan money on property here at Bayou Corne, and I've been turned down multiple times by different institutions.
And now I have a home, a 3-bedroom brick home that was probably worth in the neighborhood of $300,000 that is now unsaleable.
For those who remained through the evacuation order, Texas Brine gave weekly checks of $875. Not enough, says Bob Deaton, who's lived on this bayou since 2006. He and 6 other residents are still seeking more compensation.
And they have taken the position that because they paid weekly disaster assistance, that they don't owe us anything, that they've already paid.
Texas Brine maintains that its actions alone did not cause the sinkhole, that a well drilled in 1986 by Occidental Chemical is to blame. Earlier this year, a state district judge found Texas Brine 35% at fault, OxyChem 50%, and Vulcan Materials 15%. In a statement to us, Texas Brine says, "We look forward to operating in Assumption Parish for years to come. We remain actively involved in the community and will do our very best to be a good corporate neighbor." But with dozens of abandoned homes being demolished through the fall and little hope of construction, Landry questions whether he'll someday have no neighbors left. Still, he doesn't regret that choice he made 6 years ago, to keep his piece of the land still standing.
This is a hard place to replace. And I thought immediately, I said, man, if we evacuate here and we leave, we'll never find a place directly on the bayou, directly on the water, as beautiful as this is. So I wasn't willing to give up my sportsman's paradise here at Bayou Corne.
And he hopefully won't have to, says Assumption Parish Emergency Preparedness Director John Boudreau, who claims new monitoring will help sink the bayou's risk of sinkholes for the years to come.
Things are quiet. Hopefully it stays that.
Can you imagine a beautiful place like that? And now it's worth nothing. The values of their homes, their investments, their future, their children's inheritance, gone just like that. So most of you know that in the community I live in, there was a hydrocarbon explosion of a 60-year-old plant, and 100 miles of pristine river is now toxic sludge. The same thing is happening in, South Louisiana where I live. And it's heartbreaking to see what these chemical plants are doing to what they call sportsman's paradise in Louisiana. Let's continue and let's see if maybe you may one day lose your property or your home to a sinkhole. So let's talk about 7 underground cities that you can find in the United States. By the way, friends and family of the internet, YouTube does not pay me because my content is harmful to those who are living an ungodly life and trying to destroy our country. So if you like Christian content that is backed up with facts, please look in the top of comments. We do have a book for sale called Growing Under a Poisoned Sky. You can find that just about anywhere. I was notified by a few people that live out of America. They're having trouble getting Amazon to deliver. You can try Walden Books or even eBay. I know our book is available on both of those sites. Again, it's Growing Under a Poisoned Sky. My husband does have a brain aneurysm, and we have it, extenuating medical expenses just building up because welcome to the new America, right? Where if you don't belong here, you're good. If you don't work, you're even better. But if you're a taxpayer and an unexpected illness hits you or your family, you're going to realize real quick that all that unexpected medical bills and expenses going to these specialists and missing work, it starts to kick really hard. So if you guys would like to donate to help us stay afloat during this period of time, you will get our monthly newsletter. And you'll be invited to Zoom links with me and Leslie, the co-author of the book, Growing Under a Poisoned Sky. But you have to do something to do that. One, you have to donate, but two, you have to add your email address so I can get you on the list. All right, let's talk about those next 7 cities. 7 underground cities in the U.S. Beneath the surface of America's cities lies a hidden world. Forgotten tunnels, buried streets, and entire networks once teeming with life. By the way, did you guys know that in 1 year, they laid 2.5 million lines of pipeline in this country? That means underground. They have 19 million miles of fiber optic cable alone was laid in 2011. And that all of the gas, water, and sewage for every city and every town is all underground. That destabilizes what is on top of the ground. So these underground spaces tell fascinating stories of survival, secrecy, and ingenuity. Some formed out of necessity, right? While others were intentionally buried as cities grew and changed. From Seattle's hidden streets to Missouri's vast underground business district, these 7 underground cities reveal a side of America that's rarely seen, but unforgettable once discovered. I fully intend to go with my daughter next time I'm in Seattle to do the underground city tour. In fact, she and I were going to do that when they discovered my husband's brain aneurysm and I had to rush home. So there is a historic Pioneer Square, lies a forgotten city once that thrived in the 1800s before fire and urban redesign sealed it off. In 1889, the Great Seattle Fire devastated downtown. Rather than rebuild on the same soggy ground level, city planners elevated the streets. The result, an entire network of subterranean storefronts, sidewalks, and alleyways remain below Seattle. Kind of interesting. Atlanta underground, Georgia. What? Atlanta's modern downtown hides an unexpected secret, a historic 6-block district buried beneath the city's skyscrapers. Known as Underground Atlanta, this network of 19th century roads, storefronts, and railway platforms originally served as a bustling transportation hub during the city's post-Civil War boom. Like I said, it does destabilize what is above. Then you have Kansas City, it's subtropolis, Missouri. We've talked about this several times. This is a very unique place. It is basically it's an underground industrial park and it's massive. It spans 55 million square feet. It is a limestone cave system beneath the bluffs of the Missouri River. It is the largest underground business complex in the world. Then you have Portland Shanghai tunnels in Oregon. There's a photo of it, kind of unique and scary looking. Nicknamed the Portland Underground, this infamous Shanghai tunnel beneath Portland's Old Town tells a dark story. In the 1800s and early 1900s, the city was a bustling port and a dangerous place to pass out. Men were allegedly kidnapped, drugged, and smuggled through the tunnel network onto ships bound for Asia, a practice known as Shanghaiing. Then there's Chicago Speedway, Illinois. It's deep beneath Chicago's icy winter winds, lies a warm, dry lifeline for commuters. The Chicago Speedway, this 40-block network of underground tunnels and overhead skyways connects more than 50 buildings in the downtown loop, including City Hall, hotels, shopping centers, and transit stations. Then there's the Houston Tunnel System, and this is in Texas. And I didn't know about any of these, by the way. I love to learn. It is, you wouldn't expect car-loving Houston to have one of the most extensive pedestrian tunnel networks in the country, but it does. Stretching more than 6 miles beneath the city's downtown, the Houston Tunnel System connects 95 city blocks and is used by thousands of office workers daily. It was built in the 1930s as a link between two movie theaters, and the tunnel system has evolved into a full-blown subterranean metropolis. It features everything from banks and barbershops to food courts and fine dining. Make sure if you're a tourist that you don't miss that. The hidden catacombs of Indianapolis, Indiana. Beneath Indianapolis, a network of catacombs tells a story of the city's past. Once used to transport and store meats and produce for market sales, it was constructed in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These underground tunnels helped facilitate the city's bustling economy by providing a cool, secure environment for goods. It does say that much of these catacombs remain closed off for their historical significance. And then, you know, we're just obsessed with underground stuff in America. And I think a lot of us understand the military has really pushed the boundaries, you know, of what's out there. And it makes us wonder what they do underneath the grounds, you know, how they've got I've heard this from truck drivers. They can drive their trucks now basically across the United States with never surfacing. And what does that do to the towns, right, that are beneath these tunnels, above these tunnels? Well, I'm going to show you, right? Look at this. The largest sinkholes in America and the towns they swallowed, right? I don't think nature has a lot to do with these sinkholes. I think man causes them. Now, I do know that you do have some sinking that is involved in removing water from underwater aquifers. But again, that's man-made because we suck too much water out of, you know, and then there's air and then the ground sinks. There's nothing holding it. It says, before looking at the most notorious sinkholes in towns they consume, it's helped to understand how they form. Sinkholes occur when the ground beneath the surface gives way due to the distillation of soluble bedrock, limestone, gypsum, or salt. This process called cartosification creates underground voids. When the surface layer can no longer support its weight, it collapses. All right. I showed you Bayou Corne sinkhole in Louisiana. It's 34 acres, 700 feet deep, and it began in 2012. There's Winter Park sinkhole in Florida. It's about 300 foot wide, 80 foot deep. It appeared in 1981. Lake Jackson sinkhole, Florida. 400 acres of drained lake. This is in Tallahassee, Florida. It's pretty bad. And you've got Texas, right? It's 900 feet across, 260 feet deep. Began and appeared in 2008 because it's over a salt dome. Again, residents woke to find massive hole expanding rapidly, swallowing vehicles, oil-filled equipment, and threatening homes. The locals call it Sinkhole de Mayo. Gully Hole, Alabama. It's 325 feet wide, 180 feet deep, 1972. Says the collapse swallowed about 15 acres of forest and left behind a sheer walled pit that stunned the local community. No homes were lost, but the sudden appearance of a hole nearly the size of a football field sent shockwaves through rural Alabama. Gully Hole is a textbook example of a cursed sinkhole where acidic rainwater slowly dissolved the underlying limestone until the ground could no longer support its own weight. What causes acid rain? Acidic rain. I wonder how many chemical plants are in this area. I wonder how many cloud seeding projects happened, which is what our book, Growing Under a Poison Sky, really discusses with you guys. Um, Bowling Green Corvette Museum sinkhole, Kentucky. This was pretty horrific here. It was 40 foot wide, 30 foot deep. So in 2014, a massive sinkhole opened beneath the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, swallowing 8 prized cars, including rare and historic models. It was caught on security cameras, quickly became a viral sensation, and drew nationwide attention. So I just wanted to share, some of this with you guys. Sinkholes are a reminder that landscapes are constantly changing, often beneath our feet, and sometimes without warning. Guys, I just wanted to warn you. I've done so many videos for y'all, right? About people feeling the woof, 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 woof of the machines underneath the soil, under ranches, especially in the Midwest. They can feel it. Their gates shake. They know there's something under the ground moving. It's obviously machinery. Is it laying down pipeline, fiber optics, tunnels that 18-wheelers can drive through? And what exactly do they move underneath our feet that we are unaware of? Just something for you to think about this Sunday. My husband and I are now leaving for a funeral. His stepmom has passed away just a few months after his father. And so we have a memorial today. A lot going on in our lives, right? I'm getting over being sick. I feel a little better today. Thank you guys for your prayers. There is a town hall in Roseland, Louisiana, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. That would be September the 9th, to discuss the preliminary results of some of the testing done post Smitty's explosion in Louisiana. To the ones of you that are rowing in our boat, thank you so much. Because I would have to stop doing this without you guys sending what you could to help us stay on the air. God bless you guys. Love you so much. Be blessed today, folks.